His name's Phill.
And his name is Tim.
And this is Tim and Phill Talk About Games.
A podcast where Tim and myself get together and talk about games we've recently played and discuss topics in the world of gaming.
It's the end of another year, and that means it's time to reflect back on the games that we have played, the games that we have loved, and some of the year's biggest disappointments.
Not only that, we will be seeing out the year with some of our hopes and predictions for the coming year as we bring on a brand new 2016. Okay, so listeners, we do have a slight confession to make with regards to that intro that you just heard, saying that it was the end of another year. Actually, it's the start of the next year, because the episode that we recorded while both myself and Tim were in Perth over Christmas, I came back down to say hello to my family and friends. Unfortunately, that episode got kind of lost to audio scrabble and noise, so we kind of lost that, so we're re-recording. It's going to be a little bit more brief because we've kind of already talked about this stuff, so it's a little bit frustrating. It's like retyping an email that you just lost to the
It is the worst, isn't it? When you haven't saved it.
Exactly. So we're just we're gonna do this episode. We do
or those HTML submission boxes.
Oh yeah, who does that? It's just the worst. Like I remember
It really is.
So many times LiveJournal, and you would just be typing, and then you hit the backspace button. But for no real reason. But you clicked outside
the box?
No. Yeah, and so it goes back. And you're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's all gone.
There goes my life.
Yeah, because when you were using LiveJournal, you were probably 16. So you probably thought it was your life.
It was your life, yeah.
Anyway, we are back. We're going to record this episode for looking back at our best of 2015, which is actually really fun. So I actually don't mind doing this because I do love looking back at 2015, and
it could be worse.
Yeah, we could have recorded some really...
It could be a review.
Yeah. Or like a really deep discussion of a game where we came to all kinds of revelations and you know,
yeah,
on stream, so to speak, really found ourselves. No, this is just...
That's never happened on this podcast before.
This is just pretty much going through our favourite games, which, if you've listened to the podcast, you probably know most of them already, but still, hopefully we've got a couple of surprises in there. So I think we're just going to go one to one, and there are a couple of games that we share, so we're going to do those at the end. Literally a couple, which is quite interesting. There's not as many games shared as we thought there would be.
As most years.
Yeah, as most years, actually, yeah. So, without
I mostly blame you, actually, for not playing video games.
I have been fairly remiss, that is true. But yeah, without further ado, Tim, what's your first one? I don't think we're doing a number order, right?
No, there is absolutely no order to these. It's just, what order we thought them in. This is one of the things that we joke about all the time, is that we can never actually remember what it is that we've played.
Yeah.
And quite often we have to go through the Wikipedia article of games that were released in 2015. And then just go through it methodically and go, yes, no.
Yeah.
No, yes, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the one that sticks out for me the most this year is City Skylines.
Yeah.
And this is, again, another game that I had to look up to remind myself that I had played.
And that it came out in this year, right? Or, some of these games technically have been out for more than a year because they were in early access. We're really just saying games that we've played this year. It doesn't matter if they were in early access or whatever in the years before that. So, just a heads up.
But City Skylines is a game that I've knocked almost 100 hours into.
That's
so it
impressive.
should at least be memorable.
Yeah.
I like to joke that City Skylines is actually just Intersection Simulator 2015.
Yes.
Because all I do is create freeway on-ramps and off-ramps. It's bizarrely cathartic to sit there and figure out how to best direct the flow of traffic in a badly designed city.
Sim games, right? Like, that's what they're all about. And this one apparently does it very, very well.
It does. It does it really, really well. It was the game that I really wish the recent SimCity game had been. And I think a lot of people are of the same sort of mind on that one. I did play the the most recent SimCity, which I think was just called SimCity.
I think it was one of those reboots where they're just like, screw the numbering. We don't want anyone to remember the fact that there's been a whole bunch of other games.
And it was on Origin, and it was just, there were so many things wrong. The game breaks after that, like the end game just doesn't work. The
server
networking, so bad. So
bad taste.
That left a real sour taste in my mouth, and getting City Skylines in there soon after, being so open to modding, was just the best palate cleanser that I could possibly have had. It was a fantastic game.
It's like a nice, refreshing lemon sorbet after a bitter milk something. I don't know. Whatever.
This analogy fell apart really quick.
Yeah, real quick. Okay, so City Skylines. What? Best 2015.
Best intersection simulator. Yep.
Okay, so first game up on my list, and somewhat of a recurring theme. Well, not too much of a recurring theme, but games that you play with controllers, because I bought a PS4 for the first time this year. Obviously, the first time, because why would you buy a PS4 twice? But yeah, I bought a new console, which is something that hasn't happened for a while. So yeah, my first game was Rocket League. Rocket League is amazing. It is soccer with cars, basically little remote control cars, although the jury is still out. I haven't heard a convincing argument one way or the other whether or not it's normal size cars with a giant ball or remote control cars with a normal size ball. I prefer the latter, because then I'm a giant man playing with a controller that is doing these remote control cars, and also it would mean that the arenas that they're playing in are like meticulously crafted by arena crafting professionals in the world of Rocket League. Anyway, all that besides, it's basically it's very easy to pick up. It has got an enormously high skill ceiling. If you want to look up like Rocket League skill videos, you will be absolutely amazed what people can do with a car that can jump once and use a rocket boost and also spin in the air. It's poetry. Some of the stuff that people do is just absolute poetry. And I think Psyonix, which are the guys that made it, have done a brilliant job at encouraging people. They kind of got onto the PSN network really, really early and gave it away for free, which is where I got it from. And it was just so much fun from day one. I have 5 games that I got with my PS4 that I have not touched. And I completely blame Rocket League, because at like day one, I got PSN and it was free. And I was like, oh, I'll download this. It looks kind of fun. And I played it like solidly for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's 5 minutes a game. It's easy to pick up and play. As I said, the skill ceiling is really high, and thankfully, or not thankfully, but I am never ever going to reach it. So there's that. Yeah, just amazing game. Go out and play it, grab it. I think it's $20 on Steam, maybe, and similarly on PS4. So, bargain of the century.
Do it.
Best LAN game as well, I would imagine. That would be a game that if you were having a LAN or even an ELAN, just getting together six of your mates or 4 of your mates, the fun you would have.
That's also true, yeah.
All right, over to you.
So, the next one was a game that you got for me, which is technically not released because it's still in alpha, although we were both surprised to learn that this was in alpha, and you've been surprised again.
I swear it came out of early access. No,
it's still in early access.
Damn.
Yeah,
okay.
And that is Darkest Dungeon, the weird H.P. Lovecraft meets Edgar Allan Poe mental illness treasure hunting simulator.
Oh, nice.
It is it's a really interesting game. It's very well done. The art is just gorgeous. It's a beautiful game, which is a theme that's on this list a fair bit, I've noticed actually this year. These are all very good looking games. City Skylines as well, surprisingly good looking for the game that it is. Darkest Dungeon is a roguelite, I guess you could say. It has some semblance of persistence between runs through this dungeon.
Yeah.
We did an entire episode on it, which you can go back and listen to, because it is, I think, actually a pretty good episode where we cover it fairly heavily. But this is a game that I spent a lot more time playing than I really expected to.
Yeah.
And I can see myself going back to it again. It's very hard, though. It is very, very hard.
And I think there were complaints about it becoming a null state sometimes. Like, you can't... Like, there will be a time where you just have to restart the game. And that was one criticism that apparently people had of it.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of games have this problem where you get to a point where, yes, you could technically get back from it, but it's either going to be such a grind to claw back that it's not fun. Or
Although, if it's a roguelike, that's kind of the point of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the point was more the fact that with the sense of persistence, there reaches a point where you have to like delete your save game and start again.
Oh, okay.
And actually having to go through and delete, that can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But early access, maybe that's been fixed. I haven't played it in 6 months.
Yeah.
I actually really want to go back and play it now.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay, next up, I'm going to do 2 of the indie games that I chose in this list real quick. So the first one is Downwell. There is not much to say about Downwell. It has 5 levels. It has a very simple mechanic. It was made, I think it's the first released game of the person who made it, who's a Japanese fellow, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head because I'm really bad with names. But yeah, basically the entire mechanic is that you're falling down a well, hence the name, and you have gun boots. And when you press your little gun boot button, you fire bullets down and you arrest your fall. And that's really it, but it is ridiculously well polished. It feels really nice, like the game feels really nice, and the simplicity of the mechanic means that it's got that one more go. Like it's very similar feel to a Super Meat Boy or something like that, where your aim is right there. Your goal is to get to that place. Or in the case of Downwell, it's just to keep falling. That's the whole point of it. Keep falling for basically ever until you beat the boss, which I haven't quite yet done yet. And that's it. It's a very simplistic graphically. It's got a couple of little touches, like the trail effect is actually quite nice. And I found a tutorial the other day that actually shows you how to do it, which is quite cool. And yeah, just real simple. If you want something that will cleanse your palate, like the nice lemon sorbet that we mentioned earlier. This one's a little bit smaller, but it'll certainly satisfy you. The other one that I want to talk about, because the other 2 that I have kind of fit together a little bit better, is Hand of Fate. So that was the game that I mentioned a little while ago in a couple of episodes ago, where we just had a review episode, which is basically similar in that it is kind of a rogue, very light, and you are exploring a dungeon by flipping over cards, and you get equipment, and it plays out kind of like a cross between a Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson sorcery book, an RPG, and a card collection like kind of type of game. So if you like all those 3 things, you will definitely like Hand of Fate. As I said in my review of it, there are a couple of issues just with difficulty and just some of the design choices they made, but overall it's actually a very, very solid game. And my hunch is that if they make a second one, which hopefully they will, because I really did enjoy the first one, I think it'll be very, very polished and very well received. So hopefully they get some money to do that from the sales of the first one. I don't know what kind of sales figures they have, but it seems like it was pretty popular there for a while. So hopefully that gives them enough money to go back to the drawing board, do Hand of Fate 2, and really nail it. Because I think the actual bones of the game were just really, really worth it. So they
need to do an endless.
Yeah,
where they make a really solid but not that great first game.
Yeah,
but with some good sort of guts behind it, and then come back and really hit it out of the park with numbers 2 and 3.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right, next
up is another very, very special one for me. I was looking forward to this game just incredibly so. It was one of those ones as well that kind of you hoped that it would be something, and then it was. And that in itself was kind of surprising. The game was Homeworld Remastered. Yeah. So Homeworld Remastered is the remake of the Homeworld 1 and 2 games, which was only remade because the IP was being auctioned off because the previous company that owned it had gone bankrupt, and Gearbox managed to pick up the IP, rehire a bunch of the original developers, hire some of the modders in the community as well, which I thought was just incredible. Find the original composer. He dug out his original tapes from storage, and they just remade the game with modern technology. It looks just like the original game did, but with all the flash and wonder of modern game hardware and software.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
looks gorgeous. It's phenomenal. It's everything I wanted it to be. And I couldn't have been happy with this game if, there's nothing they could have done to improve it, as far as I'm concerned. You're always going to get your rabble on the internet who are like, oh, well, the Corvettes don't quite work like they did in the original one, and the AI sometimes bugs out when you get too close to the harvest. I don't care. Like, the spirit of the game is 100% there.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
If you have never played a Homeworld game, you owe it to yourself to try it.
Man,
it's a just gorgeous game.
My brother and I used to sit for hours playing the Homeworld games, like just doing skirmishes. Like once we'd finish the main mission, you just do skirmishes, and yeah, the game is it may seem a little bit old fashioned when you play it, but it is pretty deep when you get into it. So just that extra Z axis, it changes a lot. Changes a lot.
Also, good story, good voice acting. A lot of the original voice actors' work is still in there. So soundtrack. I can't say enough about the soundtrack. It's actually one of those games that sort of inspires me to try and create.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You know what? Screw the game. Just buy the soundtrack. Okay, so next on my list is 2 games that I didn't actually play. How about that? Isn't that weird?
That's okay. There's one on mine that I didn't play either.
I'm trying to think which one that is. Anyway, so 2 games, also indie games, that in my indie list. 2 of them that I didn't play because my girlfriend played them. But I kind of watched on in the corner of my eye, and I found them compelling, even without actually really knowing what was specifically going on in the game. So the first one is called Her Story. So Her Story is basically, it's like, I think the premise of the game goes something like you are investigating a cold case, or possibly just an old case of I think murder. And basically you go to access the archives, the video archives of an interview with a woman who is integral to the investigation, and they're all corrupted. So there's no way of getting an order to them, but somehow the tags of the videos have made it through this corruption process. So that's the suspension of disbelief, that we can't just get a very adept computer user to just recreate the index file. So just suspend the disbelief there and just believe that you have to basically, you go into this computer system and it's very like old fashioned looking, and you type in, murder or something like that, some keyword, and what pops up is just a list of videos that match that keyword, and they're real-time videos, like they're actually real, HD videos of this woman being interviewed, but you can't hear the questions, you can only hear her answers. And so this actress, who is amazing, and I don't know her name, but just from the snippets that I saw of her doing this game, does an amazing job, obviously, because kind of the game pretty much hinges on that. But yeah, it's just a very unique approach to gaming, and very unique approach to making a game, and involving tension in the player. Not like, because you could technically write a keyword right at the start of the game and discover some really some truths in that one keyword search that will make the rest of the game kind of make more sense, or you could slowly uncover the truth as you went. Apparently there is no real resolution of the truth. Like, there's a couple of different warring philosophies as to what actually happens in the game, but I think that's really cool. It's just a very unique game that's out there at the moment. I can't wait to sink my teeth in it, because I just want to clear a day or a morning where I can just go through it, because apparently it takes around about 4 or 5 hours. But I'm keen to sink my teeth in that one. And the other one that my girlfriend played is called Life is Strange, and that's by a company I can't think of right now. Quantic Dream? Or is
Names
that Fahrenheit?
are hard.
Is that Fahrenheit?
No, it's Fahrenheit.
Yeah. Anyway, it's one of those guys. And basically it's very similar to a Telltale game, in that you're kind of watching this teenage girl that's growing up in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, I want to say, like from the fashion that I saw in the game out of the corner of my eye. But she can rewind time. And so it's kind of this fantasy that all teenagers have, where you could undo the stupid things you say in front of all your friends.
Teenagers?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're everyone, I guess. It persists. It's kind of this fantasy ability, but obviously, it's not all roses, and there's a lot of drama and a lot of tension that's going on in her high school, and basically you're just guiding this girl through, coming of age. It's very much a coming of age story, but it's very compelling. My girlfriend, when she plays games, she started to do a lot more of it, which is awesome. But she takes notes, and she took like 7 pages, like full pages of notes on this game. Like, that's how compelling it is. She really wanted to make sure that she caught everything. And it also does the cool thing at the end of the level that I think a few other Telltale games do. It's not by Telltale Games, by the way, but it just copies a couple of things.
It's Don't Nod.
Don't Nod, there you go. It shows you how many people took the choice that you took, so the percentage of players. And my girlfriend was kind of like, I don't think I think like a lot of people, because I ended up on the like 2 or 3% outcome kind of thing a few times.
That said, I get the same thing with Telltale Games.
Yeah. So, so there you go. So those are 2 games I didn't play, but they made it onto my best of list because I'm really psyched to play them, and it was really cool watching someone else play them. So back over to you, Tim.
Also, with Life is Strange, which I only found out recently, is that the voice actor is Ashley Birch.
Oh, but Hey Ash, what you playing, fame?
Yeah.
There you
She
go.
does a really good job. Yeah. So, on the topic
Gonna have
of
to cut
games,
that one out.
yeah.
Anyway.
So, on the games... Oh, fuck. Now you've ruined it.
I like this. This is way more relaxed.
So, on the topic of games that we haven't actually played, that are on our best games list, I have The Witcher 3.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was going to be like Shock of Shocks, Star Citizen, like you hadn't played Star Citizen or
No, I
something
played
like
the crap out of it this year. No, The Witcher 3, I'm a huge Witcher fan. I am a big fan of the books, a huge fan of the games, but I haven't finished The Witcher 2 yet. And I cannot play The Witcher 3 until I finish 2. I just can't, like, my OCD will not allow it to happen.
Yeah, that's fair.
I own it. I own The Witcher 3. I have a lovely big box set, and I have a statue of Geralt fighting a griffin. I've spent all the requisite money for it to be on my best games list. I just haven't actually played the game yet. But I also am bolstered by the fact that it is, universally acclaimed. Everyone is agreeing that it is a very, very good game. A lot of places gave it best game of the year. And on top of that, I did actually get to meet some of the developers at PAX this year, and it was great meeting them as well. Their talk on quest design and the way that they talk about game design in general was fantastic. So that whole thing was just really, it bolsters me to... When I actually do get around to playing it, I know that I'm going to enjoy myself.
Oh, it's going to be a good experience, yeah. Cool, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have only... I've played Witcher 3, but I've only put like an hour or so into it, so I have no way of judging it, so I didn't add it to my list. But anyway, keeping on going. So before I get into things that aren't games that are still on my best of gaming list, I did want to actually get out the rest of the games. One of which I played a lot of yesterday, which was Destiny. So as I mentioned, I did buy a PS4 this year, and one of the things I kind of bought it for was Destiny. That may come as a surprise to some people because they know that I play a lot of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and I'm kind of like a PC first-person shooter kind of guy. But for some reason, Destiny just looked like the right game to buy as soon as I got the PS4. So other than Rocket League, I had to actually wait because I bought my PS4 in, I think, July, August, and the Taken King, which was the expansion, the first like kind of 2.0 expansion for Destiny, came out in September. But as soon as it came out, man, I played a lot of Destiny. And I've only just started getting into kind of the end game content, because it is, it's an MMO. It's an MMO FPS, it's by Bungie, the shooting feels really awesome, the game lore is extensive, and I don't know really any of it because I am bad at reading things. But it feels really nice. To to do the raids and stuff with people that I know from Perth and beyond. I now have a Destiny group, apparently. Thanks to Megan for organising that, because she plays a lot of Destiny, and it's cool to hang out with those guys and just talk our way through raids. I did my first one yesterday. We almost got to the end, but not quite.
I gotta say, it's got to be a pretty good time in history to be the mother of a newborn and also a nerd.
Exactly. There's a lot of stuff to do while you're,
especially with a game like Destiny, where you
morning.
can drop in and out of fairly quickly. You can
Yeah.
pick up, play for 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost envy her, except for the child bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's as easy as all that, but yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you just...
Rearing a child must be easy.
Oh, it's totally simple.
Look how many people do it.
But the game itself, I mean, it like I said, it's beautiful to look at. It's compelling in its gameplay and its gunplay. And yeah, just a really fun game to play with friends. I tend to steer away from the PvP because I can't be bothered with that. But the PvE is really, really fun.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm going to lump two of mine in because one of them is a game that I didn't play that much of this year, but it came out this year. Finally. Only I have dropped I'm just short of 1,000 hours into this game in its pre-alpha stage.
That's so ridiculous.
And that was Kerbal Space Program. It's again one of those games where like you're kind of shocked to learn that it was still in alpha at the time. Yeah. It finally hit 1.0 this year, and we're going to hit 1.1 very soon in 2016. And it's just an incredible game. Between my personal account of the game, where I just play for fun, and my educational account that I use to take into schools and show people how to build rockets and do science, I have logged just so many hours. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't seem to get enough of it. And now I find out that the next patch is going to introduce line of sight communication. The game has changed again. Because now you're going to have to build an array of satellites to build a deep space network, and just, I can't. I'm already salivating and feeling a little lightheaded. It's incredible. And the game that I'm bundling with that one, for the other reason, is Star Citizen, because it's a game that I have played a lot of this year that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
It has just reached what they're calling Alpha 1.0. And this is a huge, huge hallmark. This is a big, big point in the development history of the game. It's the first time when all the different components come online together. So we've got the first taste of the open world, where you can jump in, call a spaceship up from the hangar and then fly out literally 1,000,000 kilometers without a loading screen. Like, it is just incredible. The scale is mind-blowing. It's proof that everything that we've sort of been working towards and pledging towards, which I guess is the important part, proof that is real, essentially. Proof that it is actually coming together. And this is the other thing, is that, I mean, my expectations are high, but also my level of sort of trust in the game is very, very high.
Right.
And yet every time they release a big patch like this, I'm still shocked and amazed by what is actually available. But they're always further ahead than I expect, and there's always more in there than I expect. So kudos to them for getting my expectations up unreasonably high and still exceeding them. I think that's quite special.
Oh, that's good. Awesome. All right, so I've only got a couple more actual games to go before we hit our joint games. So I'm going to lump two together because why not? The first one's Heroes of the Storm, which I played a heap of last year, especially in the first half of the year before I moved to Darwin and found myself unable to actually play games because it's so hot here. Heroes of the Storm doesn't really need any introduction because it's a MOBA, it's from Blizzard, it's very polished, it's way shorter than LoL and Dota 2, which is why I liked it, because I could actually just play a 20-minute game and know that in the 20 minutes, I'm probably going to be competitive with the other team for 15 minutes of it, rather than Dota or LoL, where in the first 5 minutes of the game, you know kind of who's going to win. Especially at my level of play.
The guy that knows what he's doing.
Well, I would say just the people on the other team. So yeah, Heroes of the Storm, I really like Blizzard's design philosophy, even though they can definitely be criticized for taking already established genres and just doing the Blizzard thing and magicking it to make it look and play easily, kind of casually, whatever. That is because they make very, very clever design choices. And in this case, they've made a lot of design choices that have made the MOBA genre accessible to a bunch of people, and accessibility is not a bad word. So yeah, I would highly recommend it if you want to just have a go at a MOBA. It's pretty welcoming. There are a lot of lower level people that you can play with, and the matchmaking service isn't actually that bad. The other game that I wanted to put in there real quick, I haven't actually finished it, but I had such a blast playing it before I had to put it down and come up to Darwin. From Perth, was Ori and the Blind Forest. So Ori and the Blind Forest is a 2.5D platformer Metroidvania style game, and it is really, 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 really beautiful. It is astonishingly beautiful from an art point of view. Tim will tell you all about how astonishingly beautiful it is from a music point of view, because he really loves the soundtrack.
It's just incredible.
But it's also got very, very compelling gameplay and a quite interesting way of doing the Metroidvania thing, because they do have the thing where you travel to some section and you get an ability which means that you can backtrack and travel to other sections that were previously inaccessible, but they also have a skill-based system, like an experience points-based system from killing monsters and breaking stuff and blah blah blah, where you can actually level up your character to give them extra abilities that will make getting around just that little bit easier. So for example, you can, if you go up the agility style, there's only 3, but the agility tree, I guess, which is ironic given that it's Ori and the Blind Forest. The agility tree, you will eventually get a triple jump, which helps a lot in the game to get to like hidden things and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually it's interesting that they kind of took the really hard like design style of Metroidvanias, where you really do need to go to places in very like, you know, solid linear but backtracking ways, and they kind of gave it this fuzziness where you can get to some places before you should technically supposed to be there, by giving you kind of this leveling up system. So besides that, yeah, it's really beautiful. I can't actually overstate that enough. It is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's one of those games that you just have to play.
Exactly. It's
not very expensive. It's you owe it to yourself to get in there. Also not particularly long.
No, I would say like maybe 8 to 10 hours. It's not that bad. I think I was fairly well through it by the time I put it down. And I think I played 5 or 6 hours of it. So yeah, it depends how good you are at platformers. I'm pretty good. So
yeah.
So we're not quite up to our shared ones yet. So let me just quickly jump in. Game Maker and Rocksmith. Rocksmith, it teaches you how to play guitar, makes it really fun. Game Maker, you make games with it. It's really, really fun.
And you have spent a lot of time in both of them.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in both of them, and I've spent a lot of time in Game Maker this year, this year, and I'm going to keep spending a lot of time in Game Maker this year because I friggin' love just tooling around in Game Maker, making little experiments, keeping on working on kind of longer term projects, and also doing game jams. I really love game jams. I don't know what it is about them, but I just really like them. So
it's almost like a competition, but you don't care about winning so much because you have something at the end that you're kind of proud of.
Exactly. So and it also gives me a chance to catch up with people from Perth and
it's like
something cool.
A competition where the participation medal actually means something.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, the participation medal is that you get a game that you can play and that you can show friends, and they can be like, "What is this shitty game?"
It'd be like going into a competition every night to cook dinner.
Yeah, because you get dinner.
At the end of it, you get dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, I get to eat now. Yeah. It's great.
It's like, oh yeah, I won the competition and I get food.
Or I didn't win the competition because my food is very average.
Yeah.
But I get food.
But you still get food, exactly. So yeah, two
I also have to quickly point out the obvious elephant in the room, and that is Fallout 4.
Oh, yes.
Because again, dropped a ridiculous number of hours into this game. It's by no means a perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good game. It might not be a great game, but it is, I guess, it is pretty phenomenal purely from the fact that I'm still playing it. And the fact that I'm now reaching a point where I'm over 100 hours, 150 hours in, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I haven't finished the main quest yet, and I'm starting to reach a point now where I'm like, okay, I kind of want to play other things, but I kind of still need to finish this main quest. So I think what I'm going to do in the next couple of days is just completely, smash out that main quest line, finish the, in giant scare quotes, story, and then put it down until the DLC drops.
Right.
I think that's what it's going to have to be.
Yeah, fair enough. I have dropped maybe 10 hours into Fallout 4, and it didn't really grip me at the start, so I think maybe I'm going to have to start again.
Yeah, maybe. It's there are some characters in it. That's the thing, is that the problem with games like Fallout, and to an extent like games like Skyrim, although I think Skyrim did it so much better than Fallout in this particular one, is that there are always going to be some characters in the game that drive it more than other characters.
Right.
There are going to be characters that you connect with, you gel with, you bond with in a much better and bigger way than the other characters. That's going to happen. That's fine.
Yeah.
The problem with the sandbox nature of it is that these characters are spread out across the map, and you might not find the character that you bond with for, hundreds of hours, literally.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I was kind of lucky in finding one of the characters that I like the most very early on in the piece, and I've been traveling with that companion for pretty much the entire game.
Was it the dog?
And it wasn't the dog, no. It was... I don't know how to spoil it. No, it won't spoil it if I just say the name. It was Curie.
Okay.
But that means nothing to you.
Nope.
But the way you connect with her is interesting and is quite well done, so I won't sort of say any more than that. Yeah. But then another character that I really, really gel with, I didn't meet until hour 90. And so you need to, if you're going to put in these very, very strong characters, you need to place them more strategically so that you meet these characters earlier on in the piece.
Yeah.
Or you make them equally viable in some way. I'm not saying it's an easy problem to solve. If it was easy, they would have done it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way it's currently done was just not done particularly well, I feel. Whereas I feel like in Skyrim, most of the characters that you gel with are pretty much there at the beginning. And the ones that aren't there at the beginning, you know where they're going to be. So you tend to meet them fairly early on because you know where to go.
Yeah.
Sure. Fallout just suffers from not being able to do that very much. Also, I just got up to the romance part of it. That's weird, man.
Yeah?
That was not done well. Yeah, I actually felt a little uncomfortable when the romance options came up. It was ham-fisted in there. It was not done well at all. Maybe I'm spoiled by games like Mass Effect, but I feel like that could have been done a whole lot better.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. All right, so we are on to the games that we agreed were quite good.
That we both played together.
Yeah.
In fact, all three of these games we have played literally together.
Yes, exactly. So first one, let's just go in order.
Sure.
Armello. Armello is a board game / fantasy.
It's the computer version of a board game that doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So think of, your Settlers of Catan, your, Agricola, all those kind of board games. That's the spiritual base upon which Armello is based. So imagine that there's a really cool, awesome game with heaps
of... a physical hex grid.
Yeah, exactly. With all these awesome minifigs, and you can pick up items, and you can attack other players really intuitively, and then put it on the computer, because that's essentially what it is. Also, add in some amazing art. I know we're going on about art and sound and stuff, but damn, Damn.
This one is particularly good.
Yeah.
The sound is good. It's not amazing.
Yeah,
but the art is just unbelievable. It's not only is the actual physically rendered art of the game gorgeous, but also all the cards that you pick up have sort of slightly animated paintings on them.
Yeah, little gifs, kind of animations of things that are going on in the card. So say it's a card that's about stealing money from someone else. You'll have the little rat figure that's taking the money from them will kind of look shifty around, and the gold will gleam in his backpack and all that kind of stuff. It's really, in a lot of cases, it's quite subtle, but it's very effective.
It's just very, very well done. Also, I mean, so with the rat, I should point out that all the characters in it are sort of anthropomorphized animals.
That's right.
Very much in the style of the old Disney version of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it evokes. It's like a combination between that and the Lion King.
Yeah.
But done in almost rotoscoped, cel-shaded 3D.
Yeah.
Amazingness. It's very hard to put to words. You kind of just have to see the game.
Yeah, exactly.
The dice rolling is very satisfying, I gotta say. Maybe I just like games with dice. I don't know what the deal is there.
I'd say that's an attribute of yours.
Yeah. It was one of the parts about the original Witcher game that I liked the most as well.
Yeah. I think
the dice poker.
If you were gonna sum up like your life in dot points, like one of those dot points would be likes dice.
Yeah.
It's
a great game.
It's really fun. It's relatively kind of beginner friendly. The strategies don't change a heap. There's enough balance of luck and skill for you to, if you're playing with just players, to kind of have some really good moments. If you're playing with computers, it can get a little bit frustrating because their AI is not amazing, because obviously they don't want to make it so that they can just beat you into submission every time. Although sometimes you will just have a computer player that just wins and just goes on this insane run and just absolutely slaughters you. We had a game actually where we were technically playing against everybody. Like, it's an all-v-all game, but Tim and I very quickly just hated on this one character, this little mole rat looking dude, and we tried to stop him and we just didn't.
Just couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. It was just too good. His rolls were just insane, and you're just sitting there just shaking your head at the luck sometimes.
And it was the point where neither of us wanted to win. We just wanted to stop him from winning.
Exactly. So that was good time.
Which perfectly emulates a board game.
Exactly.
Because that's what happens when we play board games.
Precisely. So if you do have a couple of mates that you can get in on this one, definitely do it that way. I think is far more enjoyable. But even just single player, if you feel like something that's just a lot more casual, a lot more relaxing most of the time, I think it's just really lovely to look at and really enjoyable little game.
Yeah. So next on our list was a game that, ironically, we didn't mention in the first time we recorded this episode. And that's because we hadn't really played it. But we did play it before the end of the year.
Yes.
And it is occupying not a huge amount of our time, but a fair amount of our time.
Yeah. It's been a solid entry.
Yeah, I'd having a lot of fun playing it. And that is Vermintide, or Warhammer, the End Times - Vermintide.
So bad.
It's so the way it is essentially Left 4 Dead skinned to Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to be completely unscrupulous about how you describe it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a little bit more tight than Left 4 Dead. It allows you to... So first of all, it's first-person sword fighting, which doesn't always work, but I think they've done a fairly good job of it in this one.
Yeah.
It allows you to get together with a group of 4 other people. You choose between 5 characters, so there's a little bit of variety each time you play it. Mm-hmm. And you go through missions and you kill hundreds and hundreds of rat creatures.
Yeah.
The missions themselves are actually quite interestingly written. I know that you and I together have only really played the Horn of Magnus mission. But
yeah, I've played a bunch of the other ones as well. Just
okay,
with
so
randoms online.
There are some other missions in there that are just really, really well done. And it actually... So I was playing it with another friend of ours, and we actually had an oh wow moment while playing it when we realized that what he was seeing on his screen and what I was seeing on my screen were completely different. We were in the same room, but we were both seeing completely different things. And
lag?
it turns out, no, it turns out it was because we're in the castle of an illusionist.
Oh, right.
And we were seeing what our character wanted to see in that scene. So he was playing a dwarf, and he was seeing a room full of mountains of gold. And it wasn't just a small room, it was a huge combat arena.
Right.
Full of gold and, like, pillars of gold. And I was in a forest. But we were both together with each other, fighting back to back against these hordes of vermin, seeing completely different things. And he said to me, you know, wow, look at all that gold over voice chat. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? We're surrounded by trees. This is a swamp. And I started looking through the water to try and find the gold he was talking about. And then when we realized what was happening, we were like, holy crap, that's really clever.
Yeah.
But something that neither of us would have noticed if neither of us had said anything. So that was actually really, really impressive. And it's little bits of detail like that in the game that really drive me to it.
Yeah, for sure. There are some criticisms that I would level at it, one of which being that the loot system is a little bit janky.
Oh, it's broken as hell.
It really sucks. You have to really grind out extra items, and that can be a little bit frustrating. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it's like, like we said at the start of the description of it, it's Left 4 Dead skin to Warhammer with some extra bits put in there and some pretty good level design. So if you like Left 4 Dead and you have a couple of friends that you want to, hook up with and play some co-op, or if you don't mind playing with randoms, which the community seems relatively good. It's very small. It can take a little time to find players, but there is a lobby browser, so you can just enter straight into games as well. So that's pretty cool. It's really good fun. Like, it's a good, relaxing game. You don't have to think too much about it. You just have to have some basic strategies to take care of some of the more annoying enemies. And other than that, it's just kind of like, working together, finishing levels. It's quite cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So on to the last game on our list before we go into some very, very brief gaming resolutions. We were going to do games we were looking forward to in 2016, but then we realized that we don't actually really know any games that are coming out in 2016 because we're not those kind of gamers that actually look forward to things. So the last game, we won't talk too much about it, is Magic the Gathering. It's a card game. You might have heard about it. It's been around for a while. So 2015 was the year that we returned to Magic the Gathering and played a whole bunch of drafts and sealed events and pre-releases and all kinds of stuff. Magic's just really fun when you have a group of friends that play it. I don't really play that much of it up here in Darwin. I did play quite a bit while Louise, my girlfriend, was away for a few weeks because I just had nothing to do on Friday nights. So I went down to the local Magic the Gathering, and they're all very, very nice people. But I much prefer the interaction that you have with people that you really know and have history with, and it's just, again, it's one of those experiences very much like Vermintide where you're kind of playing against each other but not really. You're just kind of just having a it's intellectual stimulation at the same time as catching up with people. So that really, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was 2015.
Yeah. If there's any games you think that we've missed out that were really, really obvious, let us know, because we'd love to talk about your favourite games of 2015 as well. So before we go, I think we've got about 10 minutes left in the episode. So have you got any gaming resolutions for 2016?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to try and finish some.
That would be good. Yeah.
Actually finish some.
Yeah.
So I've already started on that. I really bunkered down the other day and played some FTL.
Oh, nice. I saw you were playing that, actually. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so I've been so I had to do a couple of other things that required my attention being elsewhere, and FTL is a great game to just jump in and potter around with while you alt-tab.
Yeah.
It plays in a small window, and it's not actually turn-based, but it may as well be turn-based because of the pause mechanism. And I just hadn't managed to finish a single run in the game. So
really,
I bunkered down and finished one, and which was a lot of fun. Also found out there had been a big update to it and a ton of extra content that I didn't know about before. So that was a double bonus.
Damn, nice.
So I probably dropped about 10 hours over a week and knocked out a couple of good runs on that. So I feel like I've properly put that one to bed. So I do want to go through some of the other ones that I know that I've started but not quite finished, and really just put some time into games that I feel like deserve it. Try and finish some shorter ones as well. Go back and finish some of the longer ones. I'm going to try and finish Watch Dogs if I can.
If you can get over the car steering.
It's just, and just, everything.
Yeah.
Just all the badness. Actually try and finish the main quest on it as well, which is another one that's easy to get sidetracked on. Yeah, just go through, finish some actual games. Also, publish one.
Yeah, that'd
actually finish making one and publish it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And the third one for me this year is to revamp my music side of things as well.
Good.
And actually release a couple of songs onto SoundCloud in their final finished state, rather than bits and pieces of things I've thought about doing.
Yeah. And that relates to gaming because Tim, I don't know how many people know about our Game Jam kind of situation. Tim always does all the sound for our games and he always nails it. But he obviously has issues with finishing stuff that he starts outside of game jams.
Even some of the things in the game jams.
In the game jams, yeah, exactly. So mine are pretty similar. I do also want to finish some freaking games because I haven't done that a lot. I've made an excellent start though. I have finished one game already called The Beginner's Guide, and we are going to have an excellent discussion about that in the very, very near future. And I'm also going to pick one game that is endless. So by that, I mean like a multiplayer only game or an MMO or something like that. At the moment, it's looking very likely that it's going to be Destiny because I really enjoy playing that downstairs where it's cold in my house, because upstairs it's really not. And the rest, I'm not going to put any more time into games that are endless. So stuff like Vermintide, I'm sorry, we're going to play through it. I'm going to see all the levels, but I'm not going to put that much more time other than that into it. Like, I want to get away from the games that I can play forever. So like CSGO, Vermintide, all those multiplayer co-op games where it's just grinding out loot and grinding out wins and there's no real point to it except for doing that. And focus more on the games that I can actually finish. Because playing through the Beginner's Guide, like, sure, it's an hour and a half, so it's an easy target. I started with some seriously low-hanging fruit there. But it was so satisfying, and it made me remember...
It really is.
Oh, I can actually play through and finish things.
There's something... Because I did the same... I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I played a game that I had started but never finished. Actually, I think the last one was Tomb Raider, the 2013 reboot. Yeah. So there you go. That gives you a timeline of when the last game I finished was.
Right.
But actually seeing the credits roll is super, super satisfying.
Exactly.
It feels really good.
Yeah. So I'm going to commit to one game per month. That is a very conservative, very, very conservative estimate. But one game per month that I will finish during the new year. And obviously, similarly to you, I want to just keep doing game dev, keep learning stuff. If I can release a game, I will. But if not, then, at least I'll just keep learning. And yeah, just keep doing game jams because I just absolutely love them, kind of addicted to them. And hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, play a lot of games. Keep doing this podcast, obviously. And
we'll revamp the website.
Revamp the website. That would be pretty cool. We haven't done that for a while. And yeah, just generally, just keep exploring games and keep having fun with them. That would be really cool. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Excellent.
I think we can put 2015 to bed.
Yeah. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Sleep well.
Good night.
2015.
You were pretty good, except for some of the things that weren't, which we're not going to go into because that would be depressing. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Thanks for listening. You can find us on the web at www.timandphill.com. Remember, the Phill is with 2 L's. I'm sorry. And on Facebook at facebook.com/timandphill. If you want to contact us directly, however, you can find Tim on Twitter at Dungeon Master. Add him as a friend on Steam as Ageotas, that's Ageotas, or at his website, which is corsairsanchorage.com.
And as always, you can find Phill on Twitter at ToothSoup. Add him as a friend on Steam as Apothecary, or you can find him at his regular website, which is toothsoup.com. Thanks for listening.
And happy gaming.